Hello. A couple of weeks ago, gay men in San Francisco were slimed by UCSF with a press release that led to headlines about flesh-eating homosexuals in San Francisco. The damage done to gay men through this press release from UCSF has still not been assessed. It's another example of people in ivory towers putting out dangerous statements that float down to the rest of us that we have to deal with. This came from UCSF a few weeks ago. Last week, the health department put out a one-page rejection statement without any public meetings, without any public notice. DPH decided we reject an important study from Switzerland about HIV transmission and prevention. This is a very ignorant document, and I notice it is not on the table. Came down from people in ivory towers causing damage for gays and people with AIDS. This blank sheet of paper represents no meetings from Grant Colfax, Mark Cloutier, a number of AIDS institutions who don't hold public meetings with the gay community about these issues and a lot of other issues. This blank sheet represents the disrespect shown to gay men in this town. Now, Switzerland, a number of AIDS experts over there have put out a very important study about people with HIV on cocktails who are undetectable for 6 months, may not transmit the virus. We are not discussing this today. You do not have copies of this Swiss study in front of you. Ask yourselves the question, why does the HIV Prevention Council not have copies of the Swiss study in front of them? The other question is, why isn't it being discussed publicly? Sure, DPH can reject it. That will not stop a community debate about the Swiss study from happening. So here's the real question. How many of us have to get infected? How many of us have to die before community respect starts from DPH? I want a number. How many of us have to be infected? How many of us have to die before community respect starts?
Michael, time is up. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. Hank Wilson?
I'm going to use, can you hear me? I'm going to just talk without the microphone. A couple things. One is in terms of syringe exchange. Years ago in the Tenderloin, at Tenderloin AIDS Resource Center, we talked about having a needle exchange receptacle. I don't know, do we have that yet? Is that already in place? Permanent? 24 hours all the time?
We'll have a response after that.
If it's not, it's like we're still beating that drum. It's a need. Doesn't cost too much in terms of money, but it could cost a lot in terms of prevention. I want to thank the department for giving support on the poppers issue. What a difference a letter can make. I made multiple communications to Google to try to get them to stop carrying sponsored ads for poppers. It took one letter from our health department, thank you, Dr. Colfax, and within 24 hours they pulled all their sponsored ads for poppers. They also pulled their other regular listings for sites that sell poppers. However, that's +1. In my public comments of last month, I mentioned Google, I mentioned Yahoo, and I mentioned Microsoft. It's kind of fun to find all the big ones. So we have +1 on Google. If any of you are interested, go and look at Yahoo. Yahoo is operating as if they've had no letter, and I don't think they have, I'm not sure. But they haven't responded yet, so it's kind of like, it's an interesting pre and post. Yahoo is operating right now with sponsored ads for poppers and over a dozen sites that sell poppers, which are illegal. We need support on that, because when we have young guys doing a search on poppers because they don't know what poppers are, we want them to get accurate information. We don't want to think that agencies that have good reputation like Google and Yahoo are promoting these products as if they're harmless. In terms of the health department speaking, I want to say that I am in favor of our health department and our AIDS agencies making quick responses when news developments happen. And sometimes we'll have opportunities and we'll have needs to have community forums before we make statements. And other times we need instant response. And so in the case of the Swiss study, first it's controversial. And I think that we'll have doctors on multiple sides. But I think it's also important that we make commentary when it affects the community. And sometimes after digestion we may modify what our initial message was. But I think in the case, and especially in the case of the Swiss thing, this is a controversial thing. This is a great opportunity for the community to learn a lot. When we talk about acute infection, people learn about their viral load spiking.
Thank you, Hank.
We're going to learn about this Swiss thing.
Okay, thank you.
So I want to thank the department for making a statement.
Thank you, Hank. Before our next public announcement, I'd ask that public comment confine their space to the corner, in that area, and not come over here. Thank you.
Just because we have different people in the room, we also have new members in the room. I think it's important to kind of give a little bit of balance of some of the information. And some of it is going directly to Michael Petrellis' comments. But I think it's a bigger issue because a lot of us know about some of the things that I spoke about, and I really appreciate bringing them up. One is the UCSF faux pas. It's important to also acknowledge that UCSF did make a formal apology about that. I'm not saying that people shouldn't have feelings around it, but it's important to give that balance. It's also important to recognize that Grant Colfax is, I think, in his 5th month and still actually doing something that we as a council wanted, which is to kind of bring research into the AIDS office in a bigger way. And so reorganizing the AIDS office in that way, I think it's really important to acknowledge that that has something to do with a lot of time when you're dealing with that many different people, and that those meetings are also being scheduled. It's my understanding with the gay community. So it's definitely not a slight on the gay community. If I remember correctly in his comments, he's a gay man who's very happy to be here. As am I. Okay. As am I. Okay. So also my third comment, I'll finish, is that we talked very much as a council over the years of different really dramatic and dynamic studies that have come out, or different things that have come out. We've always struggled a lot with wanting to have an immediate response on this council. And one of the things that we've always valued, and I actually really like this, is that we don't just, we're not just reactionary. And we take the time to listen to the information, figure out what's going on, get everyone's input, and then we respond. I know sometimes it may seem like you want something to come out immediately, but our response is always better because we do marinate, okay? So that's just something that I'm just putting out there. And also, if you disagree with any of my comments, it's perfectly fine. I'm not saying that it has to be right because I'm a co here, but I think it's important to have a balanced response. Thanks.
Thanks, Barry.
I just want you to know that I actually also stand on your boat. I actually do go to even the same church with you. And in this throughout the year, HPPC will host a lot of community forums because we are implementing our plan. And I would like you to invite the community that we represent and to come to speak to us. I would like you to meet them. And as well as Grant Colfax and everyone, we would like you to meet the community. And thank you
I'm
for
sorry,
your input.
when is the meeting?
We're gonna set up that as we throughout the year we will have many community.
So no date yet.
And you can
Business
check
as
the
usual.
website. Thank you, Michael.
Business as usual.
Okay, any other hands?
I just want to quickly say that one of the things that were discussed in terms of getting more input in the future here was to make things a little bit more regular. So what we all do know is that this meeting happens on the 2nd Thursday of the month. And so I would encourage any community member who wants to bring more people to represent their cause to begin to really plan that out, because one of the things we're trying to do is, instead of having, and I'm recognizing Michael's frustration, instead of having like a separate meeting that is hard to get people to plan around spontaneously, we want to try to get people focused on this second meeting of the month, the second Thursday of the month, I should say. So, seriously speaking, if that's something that you're concerned about, begin to just at least block that out. And really keep checking the website, because we plan on doing even a better job this year in terms of getting community input. Thank you.
Okay, any other hands? We're getting behind. Move on. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Thank you for all the members who had public comment. Next on the agenda is co-chair's report. Is everyone?